Back live with you tonight. Thanks for staying on. Let's look at this now. President Cyril Ramaphosa maintains his predecessor, Jacob Zuma, had an ulterior motive for issuing him summons on the eve of the ANC's 55th National Conference in December. Oral evidence began on Wednesday, where the pair made opposing arguments over why the private prosecution should go ahead. Zuma's lawyers argued that it was the disgraceful conduct of the KZN Director of Public Prosecutions that delayed issuing a summons which coincided with the conference. The former president believes Ramaphosa is an accessory after the fact to the alleged unlawful leaking of his medical records by prosecutor Billy Downer to journalist Karyn Maughan. Newzroom Afrika's senior politics reporter Ziyanda Ngcobo with us for more.
On Wednesday, the full bench of judges heard how President Cyril Ramaphosa believes the behavior of his predecessor has been a deliberate attempt to cause him personal harm and render him incapable of executing his duties as the first citizen of the Republic.
The private prosecution is for an ulterior purpose, constitutes an abuse of court process. The first respondent lacks a substantial interest in that prosecution because the charge is frivolous and vexatious, and we will come to that in our debate that point. So one must, and then he alleges that all of this taken together, you have a private prosecution that is in breach of the rule of law, which threatens his constitutional rights, and he asking the court to intervene.
A large part of the day dealt with jurisdiction, which reflected on whether or not Ramaphosa was correct to seek an urgent interdict in the civil court while facing a criminal charge. Ramaphosa's lawyer was challenged on whether he wasn't oversimplifying the fact that their client may have deviated without necessity under the circumstances.
Mr. Manager, that's not how I understand the first respondent's case on this point. The issue he raises is about procedure. It's not about the type of court. It's more about procedure. And we well know that the procedure that is followed in the criminal court is very different from that followed in the motion court.
Yes.
What he is asserting is that the president, having been summoned, should have appeared in the criminal court, and only there may he challenge his title to prosecute when he pleads in terms of section 106H, it is, right? H. That's his complaint.
Meanwhile, Advocate Dalimpofu has rebutted the submission that Zuma had an ulterior motive by issuing the summons on the eve of the ANC's 55th National Congress. He says this is a red herring that fails to take into consideration what they say is the slow, disgraceful conduct of the KZN Director of Public Prosecutions, Elaine Zungu, in issuing the prerequisite certificates of non-prosecution, otherwise known as nulli prosecuis, in order to proceed with the private prosecution.
Then we had to threaten to say, if you don't issue the new certificate, you're going to be compelled to do so in a court of law. Please give us the new certificate on the 11th of October or of November. Again, they default. This time, I suppose we must be grateful, only by 10 days. They give it on the 21st of November. Right? The former president tells this court that I received something he has been asking for all year. Now we're told about Nazareth. There was no Nazareth when he was asking about this thing from April, May, June, July, August, September, October. Then he says, when it arrives on the 21st of November, and I can attest to this without testifying from the bar, my team on the 8th of December is going to be arguing the Downer challenge. And then I say to my team, and this is the only connection to Nazareth, by the way. He says it himself. So I say to my team, let's do this quickly because I'm also going to the conference. Let's get everything out. What is proof of that, my lady? On the 15th of December, the so-called Eve of Nazareth, the former president issued 2 documents.
The second day of oral evidence will be heard here on Thursday, where the Registrar of the High Court in Johannesburg will explain why he allowed former President Jacob Zuma to issue those summons before making the prerequisite security payment when pursuing a private prosecution. There'll also be arguments made by the friend of the court, the Black House Collective Foundation. They will be arguing that the National Prosecuting Authority has been shielding President Ramaphosa from accountability. For Newzroom Afrika on Channel 405, I'm Ziyanda Ngcobo in Johannesburg.